The heat of the midday sun beat down mercilessly on the arid surface of Zalara 5, a remote mining colony far from the bustling trade routes of human-controlled space. Alex wiped the sweat from his brow as he surveyed the rocky landscape, his mining gear clinking softly with each movement. Another day, another load of ore barely worth processing, he muttered to himself as he prepared his equipment. Alex was a seasoned prospector, used to the loneliness and hardships of outer space, but the isolation of Zalara 5 was starting to wear on him. As he set his drill into the ground, a faint rustling sound caught his attention. It was unusual to hear anything over the drone of machinery and the howling winds that swept across the barren lands. Curious, he turned toward the source of the noise, his hand instinctively resting on the blaster holstered at his side. There, peeking out from behind a jagged rock, were two bright, glowing eyes. The creature hesitated for a moment before fully emerging. It was small, perhaps the size of a terrestrial puppy, but with 6 legs and shimmering iridescent fur that seemed to change color with the light. "Well, what do we have here?" Alex spoke softly, crouching down to appear less intimidating. "You're a long way from anything I've ever seen, little guy." The creature tilted its head, studying Alex with evident curiosity. It took a few tentative steps forward, its movements graceful and fluid. "Don't see many of your kind, or any kind really, around these parts," Alex continued, his voice gentle. He extended a hand slowly, trying not to spook the animal. Surprisingly, the creature trotted up to him and sniffed his hand before giving a soft, melodious chirp. "You're not shy, are you? Come here, buddy." Alex's face softened into a smile as the creature nuzzled against his palm. It was an unexpected encounter, and for the first time in months, he felt a genuine sense of wonder. "Guess you're with me now," he said, deciding then and there to take the creature in. "Let's call you Spark, huh? For those bright eyes of yours." Spark chirped again, seemingly in approval, and followed Alex as he gathered his equipment. As they walked back to his homestead, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this small, mysterious creature could change his life in ways he hadn't imagined. "Looks like it's you and me now, Spark," Alex said, looking down at his new companion. "Let's get you something to eat, figure out what you can stomach." Back at his modest living quarters, Alex watched with amusement as Spark eagerly devoured the food he offered. The creature's presence was a welcome distraction from the monotony of his daily routine. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Alex sat outside with Spark resting by his side. He looked out over the rugged landscape, his mind wandering to the possibilities that lay ahead. "Maybe you're the good luck charm I've been needing," he whispered to Spark, who simply chirped and snuggled closer. The day had brought something truly extraordinary into Alex's life, and as the stars began to twinkle in the clear night sky, he felt a renewed sense of optimism about the future. Whatever mysteries Spark held, they were now Alex's to unravel. The first rays of Zalara 5's twin suns peeked over the horizon, casting long shadows across Alex's makeshift homestead. Inside, Alex stirred from a restless night, his thoughts filled with the strange events of the previous day. "Rise and shine, Spark," Alex called out as he shuffled to the small kitchen area. The creature, Spark, had made itself comfortable on a pile of old rags Alex had laid out. Hearing his name, Spark stretched his 6 legs and ambled over to Alex, his eyes bright and attentive. "Let's see if we can figure out more about you today, huh?" Alex murmured, fixing himself a quick breakfast. He observed Spark's movements, noting how the creature seemed to understand his speech, or at least the tone of it. After breakfast, Alex set up a small testing area outside. He wanted to understand Spark's abilities, if any, beyond the normal sensory and motor skills expected of a small animal. He placed various objects in front of Spark, including a small ball, a cube, and a series of different textured materials. "Go on, Spark. Show me what you can do," Alex encouraged. To his amazement, Spark focused intently on the ball, and it began to hover slightly above the ground, encircled by a faint, luminescent glow. "Well, I'll be—" Alex gasped, his eyes widening. "Telekinesis, that's something new." Spark seemed pleased with himself, chirping cheerfully as the ball gently floated back down. Alex chuckled, a sense of pride swelling within him. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" The morning passed with more experiments, each revealing a little more of Spark's unique abilities. Alex documented everything meticulously, knowing that such a discovery was of significant scientific interest. Yet, as he watched Spark playfully interacting with the objects, he felt a protective instinct take root. Spark wasn't just a subject of study. He was becoming a friend. In the afternoon, they ventured into the colony's bustling market for supplies. Alex carried Spark in a makeshift sling, wary of drawing too much attention. However, Spark's unusual appearance quickly caught the eyes of several alien traders. One of the traders, a tall, thin being with shimmering skin, approached them cautiously. "Is that a Phaetonian pup?" he asked, his voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "A what now?" Alex replied, tightening his grip on Spark. "A Phaetonian. They were thought to be extinct," the trader explained, his eyes never leaving Spark. "Incredibly rare. I've only seen illustrations in old texts." Alex felt a surge of protectiveness. "Well, he's not for sale or display," he stated firmly, ready to leave. "No, of course. But understand, they are revered beings in many cultures, wise and powerful. You must take great care of him," the trader warned, a serious tone to his voice. "Thanks for the heads up," Alex replied, not sure how much of it he believed. He decided it was time to head home, away from prying eyes. Back at the homestead, as the day turned into evening, Alex pondered the trader's words. Spark curled up beside him, seemingly at ease. "You're something special, Spark. That much is clear." Alex spoke softly, his hand gently petting Spark's head. "And it looks like we've got a lot more to learn about each other." As the stars appeared one by one, Alex knew one thing for sure. His life had changed forever. Not just by finding Spark, but by the bond they were starting to form. A bond that felt as profound as it was mysterious. Alex's steps echoed through the largely deserted corridors of the market hub, a sprawling complex where traders from various sectors of the galaxy convened. With Spark nestled securely in his sling, Alex navigated through the increasingly crowded areas, his senses heightened due to the revelations of yesterday. "All right, Spark. We're not just here for supplies today," Alex whispered, glancing down at the creature whose eyes peered curiously at the passing crowd. "Let's see if we can learn a bit more about where you come from." As they moved deeper into the market, Alex's presence with Spark began to draw curious looks from diverse alien beings. Whispers followed as they passed, a mix of speculation and awe filling the air. Approaching a booth laden with ancient artifacts and old tomes, Alex cleared his throat to catch the attention of the merchant, a stocky being covered in luminescent scales. "Excuse me, do you know anything about Phaetonians?" Alex asked, trying to sound casual. The merchant's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition passing over his face. "Phaetonians, you say? Haven't heard that name in cycles," he replied, leaning closer. "Where did you hear such a thing?" Pointing subtly at Spark, Alex kept his voice low. "I was told my companion here might be one. Do you know anything about them?" The merchant glanced at Spark, his interest piqued. "Ah, the legends of Phaetonians are old. Very old. They were said to be guardians of peace, capable of great feats through their minds alone. Wise, just, and nearly mythical, even before they vanished." The merchant then pulled out a worn book, flipping it open to a sketch that remarkably resembled Spark. "Like this one?" Alex asked, his heart racing. "Exactly like that one," the merchant confirmed, his tone a mixture of reverence and disbelief. "To see one alive, it's unheard of." Alex purchased the book without a second thought, thanking the merchant before moving on. His mind was racing. Spark was no ordinary find, and that revelation bore weight he hadn't anticipated. Leaving the crowded center of the market, Alex and Spark found a quieter spot. Opening the book to the sketch of the Phaetonian, Alex studied it alongside Spark. The resemblance was uncanny, and the text described attributes and abilities that matched what he'd seen from Spark. "Guardians of Peace, huh? That's a big title to live up to," Alex mused, looking at Spark, who seemed to understand the gravity of the conversation. As they prepared to leave the market, a hooded figure approached them cautiously. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation earlier." The figure spoke in a hushed tone. "You must be very careful. Phaetonians were not only wise and powerful, they were also hunted for those same qualities." "Hunted? By whom?" Alex's grip tightened, a protective instinct flaring up. "By those who wanted to exploit their abilities. If the wrong beings learn of your companion, they will stop at nothing to capture him," the stranger warned before disappearing into the crowd. Alex's mind raced as he hurried back to his homestead, Spark's safety his top priority. The universe just became a lot more dangerous, and he was now responsible for one of its rarest beings. The weight of the responsibility settled on his shoulders, but so did a resolute determination to protect Spark at all costs. "Don't worry, Spark. I've got you," Alex reassured the creature, who nuzzled against him, their bond a source of mutual comfort amidst the brewing storm. The quiet hum of the homestead's life support systems was the only sound breaking the silence of the early morning hours on Zalara 5. Alex lay awake, the weight of his newfound responsibility pressing down on him like the gravity of a much larger planet. He knew the danger was real now. Spark was not just an anomaly, but a target. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the silence, followed by the ominous clatter of footsteps. Alex jolted upright, his hand reaching for the blaster he kept on his bedside table. In the dim light, he saw figures moving swiftly through the room. Before he could react, a sharp blow to his head sent him spiraling into darkness. When Alex came to, the first thing he noticed was the silence, the kind that screamed wrongness. His head throbbed painfully as he tried to orient himself, and then panic set in when he realized Spark was gone. Staggering to his feet, Alex scanned the disheveled room. It was clear. Spark had been taken. His heart sank as he recalled the stranger's warning. "I should have been more vigilant," he muttered to himself. Anger and regret knotted in his chest. Without wasting another moment, Alex grabbed his gear and headed out, determination fueling his steps. His first stop was the market, where he hoped to gather any information on who might have taken Spark and where they could have gone. The market was just coming to life with the early traders setting up their stalls. Alex approached the luminescent-scaled merchant from the day before, his approach direct and urgent. "My friend has been taken," Alex said, skipping formalities. "I think they were after him because he's a Phaetonian. Do you know who might be behind this?" The merchant's scales dulled slightly, a sign of concern. "There are many who could want such a creature," he replied cautiously, "but most likely it's the Syndicate. They're known for dealing in rare and exotic beings. Where can I find them?" Alex's voice was hard, his usual amiable demeanor gone. "Not where, but how," the merchant corrected him. "The Syndicate moves. They have a ship that docks on the dark side of Deimos, but getting aboard is a challenge only a few have managed." Armed with this information, Alex knew what he had to do. He made his way to the docks, where ships of all sizes and shapes buzzed with activity. Finding a pilot skilled and brave enough to take him to Deimos was the next step. It didn't take long for Alex to spot an old acquaintance, Mara, a pilot known for her daring spirit and less-than-legal escapades. "Mara, I need your help," Alex started, his voice urgent. Mara, recognizing the seriousness in his tone, nodded. "What's gotten you this stirred up?" "It's Spark. He's been kidnapped by the Syndicate. I need to get to Deimos, fast." Mara whistled lowly. "The Syndicate, huh? You're not messing around." "All right, I'm in. But we're going to need more than just the two of us if we're going against them." With Mara's connections, they quickly assembled a small but capable crew, a former mercenary for muscle, a tech expert for any electronic obstacles, and, of course, themselves. The team was set, and as they boarded Mara's ship, the gravity of their mission settled over them like a shroud. As the ship blasted off, leaving Zalara 5 behind, Alex looked out into the starry expanse. He was not just chasing after a kidnapped creature, he was fighting for a friend. The journey ahead would be perilous, but Alex's resolve was as strong as the steel hull surrounding them. "Hang on, Spark," he whispered into the void. "I'm coming." As Mara's ship hurtled through space toward Deimos, the atmosphere among the crew was tense. The cramped cockpit was bathed in the blue light of the dash, casting ghostly shadows over everyone's faces. Alex sat rigidly, his eyes fixed on the star-streaked void beyond the viewport. "So, you think this Syndicate just has a hangar open for visitors?" joked Tycho, the tech expert, in an attempt to cut the tension. "No," Mara replied, her hands steady on the controls. "But they don't need to know we're coming. We'll use the maintenance bay. Less guarded, not meant for guests." Jax, the former mercenary, grunted in approval. "Good. I prefer a quiet entry, less mess." Alex turned to face his assembled team. "Once we're in, we need to split up. Tycho, you'll take down their security systems. Jax, you're with me. We find Spark." "And if things go south?" Jax asked, his voice low. "We make sure they don't," Alex said firmly, though his stomach churned at the thought. The journey to Deimos was quicker than expected, or perhaps it just seemed that way to Alex, consumed by thoughts of Spark. As they approached the dark side of the moon, Mara dimmed the lights and switched to manual navigation, guiding the ship silently towards the Syndicate's rumored location. "There." Mara pointed to a sprawling structure clinging to the rocky surface, its lights a stark contrast against the dark moon. "That's our target." Tycho readied his hacking tools, a series of devices and gadgets he assured could bypass any security system. Give me 3 minutes, and their cameras will be seeing nothing but reruns. As the ship touched down lightly in the maintenance bay, the crew donned their disguises, maintenance uniforms stolen from a supply closet on another job. With a nod from Mara, they opened the hatch and stepped into the enemy's lair. The interior of the Syndicate's ship was cold and metallic, with the hum of machinery echoing off the walls. Tycho split off first, slinking towards the security hub. Mara headed to the engine room to ensure their escape route remained viable while Alex and Jax moved deeper into the labyrinthine ship. Alex's heart pounded as they crept through narrow corridors, avoiding the occasional guard. They reached the holding area, a series of locked cells, each secured with a high-tech locking mechanism. "Here," Jax whispered, pointing to a cell where a faint bioluminescent glow emanated from within. Alex's breath caught in his throat. It was Spark, curled up in the corner, his 6 legs pulled tightly around him. Relief flooded Alex, followed quickly by a surge of resolve. "Jax, cover me," he said, pulling out a set of lockpicks. Working quickly but carefully, he manipulated the tumblers inside the lock. With a soft click, the door swung open. Spark's head shot up, his glowing eyes wide. When he saw Alex, a chirp of recognition and joy escaped him. He bounded forward, nearly knocking Alex over with affectionate nuzzles. "Got you, buddy," Alex murmured, hugging Spark tightly. "Let's get out of here." The reunion was cut short by the sound of alarms blaring throughout the ship. "Tycho's work must have hit a snag," Jax noted, his voice calm despite the rising chaos. "Then we move now," Alex said, Spark securely in his arms. They raced back through the corridors, the ship now alive with activity, as guards scrambled to respond to the breach. They reached Mara just as she was finishing up in the engine room. "Engines are sabotaged. They won't be following us anytime soon," she said, leading the way back to their ship. As they blasted off from Deimos, Alex looked down at Spark, who was once again safe by his side. The dangers they'd faced had only strengthened the bond between them, a bond that Alex now knew was unbreakable. "We're going home, Spark," he said. And for the first time in what felt like forever, his heart was light. As Mara's ship hurtled away from Deimos, the adrenaline that had fueled Alex's frantic actions began to ebb, replaced by a profound sense of relief. Spark, nestled safely in Alex's lap, seemed to sense his mood, emitting soothing chirps that filled the cabin with a calm ambience. "We're not clear yet," Mara cautioned, her eyes glued to the radar screen. "We need to make a few jumps before we can shake off any pursuit." Alex nodded, his gaze lingering on Spark. "We'll do whatever it takes to keep him safe." Mara expertly navigated through the asteroid field surrounding Deimos, plotting a course that would make them hard to track. Meanwhile, Tycho monitored the communications, ensuring that their digital trail was as obscured as their physical one. "Jump coordinates set," Mara announced. "Hold on, everyone." With a decisive flick of a switch, the ship lurched forward, space bending around them as they made their first hyper jump. The journey back to Zalara 5 was fraught with tension, each jump a calculated risk. But Mara's skill and Tycho's tech kept them one step ahead of any potential pursuers. During the quieter moments, Alex and Jax reviewed their options. "We need to go on the offensive," Jax suggested. "Staying on the run isn't a long-term solution." Alex stroked Spark's fur, considering. "I agree. We can't keep dodging forever. We need to find out who's behind this and stop them." As they plotted their next moves, Mara interrupted with urgent news. "We've got company," she announced tersely. "Looks like a syndicate ship. They must have predicted one of our jumps." "Prepare for a fight," Alex said, his voice steady despite the rising stakes. They all knew this confrontation was inevitable. As the syndicate ship appeared on the horizon, its weapons charging ominously, Mara's voice was calm and collected. "I've got an idea, but it's going to be a bit risky." "We're listening," Alex said, gripping Spark a little tighter. "We let them think they've got us, then disable their weapons when they're close. Tycho, you think you can manage a remote hack?" Tycho grinned, his fingers already dancing over his console. "Just get them in range." Mara maneuvered the ship expertly, feigning a power failure that slowed their escape. As the syndicate ship drew near, confident in their imminent capture, Tycho launched his counterattack. Screens around them flickered as he worked furiously. "Now!" Tycho shouted, and Mara pulled the ship into a sharp ascent just as their assailants' weapons went offline. "Direct hit on their systems," Tycho confirmed, a triumphant tone in his voice. With the syndicate ship disabled, Mara didn't waste any time. "Making the last jump to Zalara 5. Let's hope that buys us enough time to plan our next move. As they emerged from the jump near Zalara 5, the crew breathed a collective sigh of relief. They had escaped, but the reality of their situation was clear. They were safe for now, but the threat remained. Back on the ground, Alex held Spark close, his resolve hardened. We ended up on their radar for a reason, and I intend to find out why. We're going to dig deeper into this syndicate and ensure they never threaten us or anyone else again. Jax nodded in agreement, his usual stoic demeanor replaced by a fierce determination. Let's take the fight to them. As they disembarked, the weight of their mission was palpable, but so was their camaraderie. Together, they had faced formidable odds and emerged victorious. Now they were not just a crew, they were a team, united by a common goal to protect one of the universe's most extraordinary beings. Alex looked down at Spark, his eyes reflecting a mix of affection and fierce protectiveness. We've got more battles ahead, buddy, but we'll face them together. Spark responded with an affectionate nuzzle, his trust in Alex complete. Back on Zalara 5, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Alex's crew, having narrowly escaped the Syndicate's clutches, now faced the daunting task of taking the fight to their enemy. In the safety of his homestead, Alex laid out a holographic map, pinpointing the locations where Syndicate activity was most frequent. We need a plan that hits them where it hurts, Alex declared, his gaze moving from the map to his team. We can't just keep dodging them. We need to dismantle their operations. Mara, leaning over the map with a focused expression, pointed to a cluster of systems. These are their main trade routes. If we disrupt their supply lines, we cripple their ability to operate in the outer sectors. Jax nodded in agreement, his arms crossed. And if we take out their command ship, the rest will scatter. They rely heavily on centralized command. Tycho chimed in, tapping on his tablet to bring up schematics of a heavily fortified Syndicate vessel. This is the Achilles, their flagship. If we can board it and take control, we could turn the tide. The plan was bold, perhaps the boldest Alex had ever considered, but with Spark safe by his side, he felt a surge of confidence. All right, let's prepare. Mara, you and I will handle the Achilles. Tycho, you're on disabling their communications. Jax, you lead the assault on their supply routes. Preparations began immediately. Alex's crew outfitted their ship with stolen Syndicate codes and armaments, blending in as one of their own. Spark, ever perceptive, seemed to understand the gravity of their mission, staying close to Alex's side. The journey to the Achilles was tense, with Mara navigating stealthily through asteroid fields and nebulae to avoid detection. As they approached the massive Syndicate ship, the scale of their challenge became clear. It was a fortress in space, bristling with weaponry and guarded by a fleet of smaller ships. Ready for a little spacewalk? Mara asked, a smirk playing on her lips as she handed Alex a spacesuit. After you, Alex replied, his heart racing with anticipation. Clad in their spacesuits, Alex and Mara exited their ship, using jetpacks to maneuver towards the Achilles. They planted explosives along its hull, a prelude to their dramatic entrance. Inside, they encountered resistance, but Mara's prowess and Alex's determination proved a formidable force. Meanwhile, Jax led a daring raid on one of the Syndicate's supply depots, creating chaos and drawing forces away from the Achilles. Tycho, from a hidden location, hacked into the Syndicate's communication networks, sending false orders and sowing confusion. Back on the Achilles, Alex and Mara fought their way to the bridge. A fierce battle ensued, blaster fire lighting up the dim corridors. They reached the command center, confronting the Syndicate's leader, a ruthless commander known only by his codename. Your reign of terror ends here, Alex declared, his blaster aimed at the commander. With the element of surprise and superior tactics on their side, Alex and Mara overpowered the Syndicate forces. They seized control of the Achilles, and with Tycho's help, sent a signal to all Syndicate ships, declaring their commander captured and their operations compromised. The victory was swift, but not without cost. The ship was damaged, and they had sustained injuries. However, the blow they dealt to the Syndicate was decisive. Across the region, Syndicate ships retreated, their network crumbling without their flagship. As they set course back to Zalara 5, Alex looked over at Spark, who seemed to sense the significance of their victory. We did it, buddy. We've secured a safer future for everyone, Alex said, relief and exhaustion mingling in his voice. Mara nodded, her eyes tired but bright. Not just a victory for us, but for all those who've suffered under the Syndicate's rule. As the stars passed by, a sense of accomplishment filled the cabin. They had not only survived, They had changed the course of their corner of the galaxy. And in that moment, Alex knew that whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, as a team bonded by bravery, resilience, and the unshakable conviction that they fought on the side of right. The return to Zalara 5 was triumphant, marked by the soft hum of the ship settling back onto familiar ground. As Alex stepped out, holding Spark securely, the relief was palpable. The little creature seemed to sense the change, his 6 legs stretching eagerly as if reaching for home. The crew gathered in the homestead, worn but victorious, their faces reflecting a mixture of fatigue and satisfaction. "We did more than just survive," Alex began, addressing everyone. "We made a difference. The Syndicate's grip has been loosened, and it's all thanks to each of you." Mara, Tycho, and Jax exchanged looks of mutual respect. They had started as a makeshift team, but their shared experiences had forged them into something stronger, a family. "As much as I'm ready for a long break," Mara said, a tired smile gracing her lips, "I think we've got a new problem on our hands." "What's that?" Alex asked, raising an eyebrow. "Fame," Mara chuckled. "People will hear about what we did. They'll come looking for help, for leadership, for hope." Alex considered this, his gaze drifting to Spark, who was now playfully tugging at his boot. The thought of being a beacon for others was daunting, but not unwelcome. "Then we'll be ready. We'll make sure that what we've started here doesn't end with us." In the following days, as they repaired the ship and tended to their wounds, messages began to arrive. Distress calls from nearby systems, invitations from planetary coalitions, even thank yous from those once oppressed by the Syndicate. The galaxy was taking notice, and a new chapter was unfolding. One morning, as Alex watched the sunrise, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple, the alien traders who had first identified Spark as a Phaetonian arrived. They came with an offer: to take Spark to their world, where he could learn about his heritage and grow among his kind. The decision was heart-wrenching. Spark had become more than just a pet. He was a friend, a companion who had seen him through his darkest times. As Alex knelt down, looking into Spark's glowing eyes, he felt a surge of emotion. "What do you think, buddy? Want to see where you came from?" Alex asked softly. Spark chirped, his head tilting as if pondering the question. Then, with a decisive nuzzle against Alex's cheek, he seemed to make his choice. He wanted to stay. "They say he's one of the last of his kind, a bridge between worlds," Alex explained to the traders. "But he's also part of this family, and we have a lot more adventures ahead of us." The traders nodded, understanding the bond that had formed. "Should he ever wish to learn of his people, our offer remains," one said, before departing with respectful nods. Life on Zalara 5 slowly returned to normal, or as normal as it could be for a crew that had fought off a galactic syndicate. Alex found himself stepping into a role he had never anticipated: leader, protector, friend. But with Spark by his side and his crew behind him, he faced each day with a renewed sense of purpose. As Alex stood watching another sunset, Spark curled up by his feet, and he couldn't help but smile. "Here's to new beginnings, Spark," he said. "Let's see what the stars have in store for us next." In the quiet of the evening, with the stars twinkling above, a sense of peace settled over the homestead. They had faced incredible odds and emerged victorious, not just surviving, but thriving. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and opportunities, but Alex knew one thing for sure: they were ready for whatever came next, together.